everybody. Welcome to the Vox Podcast. Bonnie and Tim are here with a very special guest. Bonnie, will you introduce our guest for today?
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be back. Thank you so much for your kindness and your responses from last week's episode. We want you to know we're walking with you and you aren't alone. And because of that, it was our joy and honor to bring in my good friend, Elise Snipes. And Elise is a therapist and she is absolutely amazing. She's transformed my life. And so she's here with us today and we have a special episode and I'm super excited. But Elise, why don't you expand on who you are and what you do?
Thank you guys for having me. For one, I'm honored to get to be here. Even in the context of this conversation, this setting, it's an honor to get to be in this conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So professionally, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And ultimately, the way that I like to think about the work that I get to do is I get to kind of just be a safe place for people. So whatever and however the work of their specific story, whatever they're facing, then my hope is to be able to be a safe container and provide some clarity and opportunity for people to have a more efficient way out of that pain and into just, can we look at it differently? And that perspective shift that might allow us, the grace that we need to face our story. So, yeah.
That is so good. And if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
So EliseSnipes.com. Easy peasy. And then I'm also the founder of Radical Wellness Collaborative, and we are like a holistic wellness group, and we're online. So if people are looking for resources to meet with spiritual directors, namely Bonnie, therapist, Enneagram coach, all of that online, and that's radicalwellness.co.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's such a delight to work with you. And listeners, one thing that hit Tim and I super hard was that we were listening to all the feedback we got from the episode, and in our conversations coming up to the episode is one of the reasons we wanted to bring Elise in is we've never been a part of a church that this has been done well. It feels like there's like heavy bombs that are dropped or topics that are dropped, and then there isn't resources for people in the congregation or even in just like the lives or the who's ever surrounding that community to sort of walk through their own pain. And one thing that was so important to us is that we are so aware that this last episode hit everybody differently, that everybody involved, there's an empty chair in the room for all of us, that there's something that story, Mike's story, brought up in us. And it's sometimes not even necessarily because of Mike, but as a reflection of our own stories, of our own trauma, of our own journeys. And so we really are excited for Elise to be here because she's going to walk through some of that with Tim and I, because we are just like you. And the news hit us in ways that it hit you, and it's different and same, but we're really hoping that this allows you to find your own story in the middle of this, and then pointing towards resources so that you too, like Elise was saying, can kind of find resources to reframe some of that pain.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it was important for us while we were talking about all the different ways that we could approach the Vox community over the last couple of weeks. And, we wanted to give everybody space and time to kind of sit with last week's news, and then, like Bonnie said, create a space here that we can kind of fumble around together and try to find truths and roots for ourselves. And I think to a large extent, we're all kind of, I don't want to speak for Elise because she's a professional, but we're kind of running in the dark a little bit. So we're trying to be as intentional as we can be with Mike, obviously, but also with everyone that's listening right now. We want to create a place for you guys to all have the safety to have open conversations. And, like Bonnie said, we've gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of interaction over the last week that has been great. Some of it hard, but great. So we just really wanted to be intentional and create space for all that stuff. So that's our intent today.
So Elise, we are ready. I just left therapy, and then I thought, I'm so glad I get to come to more. I love therapy, and I'm a huge proponent of it.
But it's progressive in and of itself, because a lot of the times the relationship with the church and therapy have been sometimes oppositional. And so it struck me, it's like, whoa, like this group of people in their desire for transparency and healing is reaching out to a group of people that are trained to help in both transparency and healing. So it's a beautiful combination. And I'm glad that there's that, the awareness that it's not in contradiction. Therapists are not in contradiction to God or the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good.
Okay.
So how do you want to start? Do you want to take us through something? What's your goal? I'm so excited. You guys, I can't tell you what a gift Elise is. I'm like so stoked about this.
This is like that's also like classic Bonnie, right? Where it's like, oh great, like big emotions and messy things, and we're just gonna go in there, right?
That feels right.
Yeah. So okay, I'm going to draw upon the empty chair, the empty seats in the room for a moment, and acknowledge that there are going to be the Bonnies, right? They're listening. So for like the listening audience, there are going to be people that are like, tell me, lead me, let's do this, like gloves off, like let's get in the mess. And then there are going to be a seat that's like, I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to sit here and observe because I'm not really sure. There are going to be seats of people that are gravely disappointed and are totally closed off to all of this and are only listening because they're mad, right? And then there are going to be people that are going to be like, oh my gosh, what are they going to say? Because this is my story too. Like I've been there, I've done that, or this has been done to me. I've been on the receiving end of this experience. So, and that's just some of the chairs. So, however people are coming into this conversation, I think it is essential that we start with there's space and room for every single one of your experience, and to know that even in the course of this conversation, you might find yourself shifting seats, and you might be eager and then resentful and then interested and then thankful and then relieved and then upset again. And we just permission to shift.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great word too. I think to kind of lay out at the beginning here is just permission, and we've kind of echoed that throughout Vox in a myriad of different ways, giving people permission to be wherever they are and to be honest with wherever they are. So kind of as we launch into this, I think that's a great word, a great idea, is that, give yourself permission to kind of to shift those seats and to kind of bounce around and be honest with how you're feeling, what you're thinking, etc.
Yeah, and permission, what hit me there, Elise, was permission to find my own story. I think for me, when over the past month, when all of this was going on, there were some things that hit me that weren't directly related to the situation, like we're talking about. But I almost felt like I was being selfish to find myself in the story, if that made sense. So I didn't want to go through it inside myself, because I'm like, it's not about you. It's not about whatever. But once I like that permission to go, no, that's why we tell our stories. That's why we're transparent, is because everything should be about everything and everyone about everyone. And so we should always be able to find a point of connection there.
Yes. So it's human, right? That we put ourselves in the story, right? We are a character in the storyline. And so we will read ourselves into other people's experience. Now, we'll do something together that I hope that people that are listening might engage. This is an activity or experiential thing as well. But it's important that as we do that we also have the clarity to untangle our story from the story, so that not everything is about us, but that some parts of it are, and that we could listen to that as an invitation to our own work and to our own stories that still hurt or feel shocked or whatever that actual, emotion is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we do it? Should we just go for it?
Yes. Let's do it. I'm so ready.
Okay. Get in that seat, Bonnie.
I am. You guys didn't see it. I just sat up straighter. I'm
Bonnie's
ready.
I'm going to move to the seat behind you.
Bonnie's in the splash zone.
Yeah, my hair will cover your face, Tim. It's fine.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna lead you through a little bit of a thing, okay? And the point of this thing is that it's a construct and a way for us to be able to see the different streams or threads of the story, and then to be able to untangle them so we can proceed with clarity and wisdom. And it's a thing that you can use as a construct in other ways to untangle your story from other situations. It just happens today that this is the one that we're gonna be untangling from. So.
Okay.
When I listened to last week's episode, what emerged, this was my response to last week's episode. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. One, we're going to hold the fact that Mike's story was the theme of last week's episode. What Mike brought to the table, Mike's experiences, the language that he used, his pain, how he held that pain, what he did with that pain from learned behavior, how he chose, but also there was really no choice but to hide. You know, there's a lot of things going on with Mike and Mike's story and this stream of Mike. And then as listeners, including all of us here and then everyone who's listening, there came then my story, right? Which is how I heard what Mike said based on my experience as human. So we have two threads, Mike, mine, okay? And then this other bigger collective story. What does this also say about the collective story of Christianity? About my experience again in church in 2020, in Christianity in this time, and what I believe about God, about men, about women, about whatever. So there's this bigger story at play, okay? So I want you to just maybe even scan through and we think about what Mike presented. I want you to just to note or notice what, if we could even go back, was the immediate like gut response. Like what's the first time you heard or you're hearing Mike share? What comes up in your body, in a memory, in a feeling, in a judgment? And you don't have to say it out loud, but I want you just to notice it.
Okay.
The point of the construct here is to allow everything room, so it might all come forward, okay? And then to hold it. Now, what we tend to do is we want this to be like a hot potato, so we're like, oh God, like, oh, here's this thing, and now I see that, and I don't like it, and so I want to throw it. And our hope is that we could hold that a little longer until it cools. So if what immediately comes up is anger, disappointment, curiosity, judgment, numb. And then the next question might be, what else is this about? So where is this touching my own story? That was that second thread that we're talking about. What else is this about? And you could scan through again your life back to zero. What else is this about? When else has this same feeling lifted from my gut up into my throat? When else have I felt surprised, let down, sad? And again, hold and just making room for the other parts of your story that need to emerge. And we're going to allow that to be the separate second stream. And then this third piece, what does this say about the larger collective story of God and my experience in the community? How is this confirming what I believe, confirming what I'm afraid of, exposing? Where's the injury when I think about the larger collective story? And again, the invitation is just to notice and to allow these memories and parts to come forward. And if you wanted to imagine these three separate containers or piles, right? And as we separate out what belongs to what Mike shared, that's just Mike's. And hopefully in this process, you can start to see that what Mike shared didn't actually have anything to do with your dad or your pastor from that other church or your third grade teacher or the other thing, whatever emerged in your story, whatever pain point came in your story, that belongs in that other container. And then maybe even in that third piece, that previous injury or pain or fear that stacks in my collective story of God, that is pain, is real, has happened, and yet also not because of Mike. We want there to be 3 separate streams so that we can respond with clarity and with the necessary action that each one of those 3 streams asks of us. So here's what I would encourage if people want to take this further would be to write what's in each of those containers, and then to ask and note, what is the invitation to healing? What does Mike's story invite and invoke in me, and what needs to be healed there? And then in my story, because it touched for a reason, whatever it stirred, whatever came to mind is unfinished, or it wouldn't have come up. So then that middle stream, what still needs to be healed, cared for, said out loud, acknowledged, known, repaired. And then in that third stream as well, that we could look at the larger collective, bigger story of community that says there needs to be a voice here. This needs to be figured out. We need to do better. What's in this third piece? And when we separate and gain awareness, there tends to be also a sense of like, compassionate action. Because we might actually also see that there's been a lot of needless pain that has set a lot of different things in motion here. So I'm going to summarize that with we hold the story. We allow that to go to 3 separate spaces. We hold and make room for what comes up. And we pay attention to what is required from each space. And we allow every part of our story to come forward, present, but yet untangled, so that way we're not responding to one thing with the power of 3 streams. Because then it's so big and messy that we're like, this is everything. But it's not everything. Yeah.
That was so helpful.
This is hard. Because
it's hard to separate them. It all feels so, it feels intertwined. And it also, but like once you separate it out, there's in between there, like so much room for grace is what I'm feeling. And I didn't expect to feel that. Now I'm like, no, let's stop. I'm the opposite now. That was really helpful.
Bonnie, you actually touched on something that's crucial, is that it does all feel the same because it's touching, like it's like the same feeling button is being activated physiologically within you, which is why they feel connected and why it's helpful for us to pull it apart so that we can take care of each one of them respectively.
Yeah.
It's like a Russian packing doll.
Yeah, it is.
Just pulling out a littler one, and then a littler one, and then getting down to the middle nugget. There you are.
And then at the end, you're like, look at that tiny little. It caused such a spark. Oh, no, that was so good. Like Tim, I think you and I talked, like I'm prepared to actually share what my containers were because I think I do believe this is probably many people's containers.
Yeah.
So I'll just go first and we can just see where it takes us if that's okay with you too.
Yeah, could do it.
So my first one, the gut reaction that came up was betrayal. And that's a funny reaction, I think, for myself to have. Because when I really think about it, he didn't betray me. But I think that the feeling of on all fronts that like something's going on with somebody that you don't know, and they're your friend, that's hard for me to accept, I guess. And I don't think that says anything about Mike. Actually, it says something about me and my desire to, like, I want to be a certain type of friend, that I want people to tell me everything, or like, so I take that as a criticism to me, that I wasn't X, Y, and Z enough, that he didn't feel like he didn't have to be in hiding around me, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
The second container of mine is, and this one actually was a little harder for me to untangle.
Isolate it. Yeah.
Is that, I grew up mostly in ministry around Mike. I'd worked at many different churches with or alongside him. And the message, and not from Mike, but from anybody that is set up to surround, or protect the pastor.
Yeah.
The story has always been like, even if I'm on staff or even if I'm an intern or whatever, like, you can't go in a room alone with that person, because you will cause them to stumble and or to sin or to whatever it is. And hearing that from age 18 till forever, till now.
Till tomorrow.
In 10 years. But this story there is that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
That I would be to blame, and that there is shame that should be associated with me being a woman, and that I can't trust myself. Like, if I'm literally walking in the room to ask a question, I should be aware that I have a secret motive, even when I don't. So the feeling of anger there is present for me.
Yeah.
Because
maybe it wasn't me.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't me, and it wasn't necessarily Mike, but maybe it's not the women. Like, if we're separating this from Mike, like, maybe it's not always the women, right? Like, why is the narrative always it'll be you that causes him to stumble, versus like this idea that, like, hey, we're in this together and we're trusting each other and we're adults, and like, I don't know, it just the blame being placed on the woman that rises anger in me. And then my third container is that I just see a broken system.
Yeah.
Again and again and again. I know that our podcast is not a church, but it operates similarly to a large mega church. And every mega church I've been a part of, the pastor is suffering. And all of a sudden something happens, and it's like, this has been happening for years, and I never had anyone. It's the same storyline.
Yes.
And so I see this broken system, and that make the feeling that comes up there is just like a deep sadness.
Right.
That we have to do better. There has to be a better way.
Yes. So when I hear that, there's a sense of like, okay, now when you spaced those out and put those in those three containers, then you're able to see Mike, share mutual responsibility as humans between genders, right?
Yep.
And be a part of solution for a system that is desperately begging for it to be different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can then put back into that construct, in my feeling now, also in solution, in a sense, what is required of me in response.
Right.
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to talk about your containers?
Yeah, I'll try to make sure that I did them correctly. I always have the problem on this podcast of listening to everybody else and then forgetting that there's a microphone in front of my face. So
I love that.
I'm just like, I'm listener number one.
There is no way.
Yeah, I put in the first one disappointment, but it was disappointment, but it was also then I went right into like buckle down business mode. Like I locked right in with like, okay, this is the first step that needs to happen with, helping Mike. This is the first step that needs to happen with what's happening with the listeners here and how we, like, I just locked right into like process.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. And I don't know what that
Elise, would that be
means.
Like a hot potato moment?
Completely.
Even if you went into something productive?
Well, that's why it's so subtle and why we also celebrate the people that are these solvers, right? And then we haven't made room for like, my invitation for sure for Tim would be to circle back and let's sit with that disappointment. Right. And what else that gives birth to beyond that disappointment, what else hurts there. Mm-hmm. Because yes, of course, solution, but that was your initial go around the cycle. I'm disappointed, and now I need to make sure everyone else is okay. So let me just see where we're at. And in an exercise like this, because it's like postpartum, if you will, or postmortem, there's this sense of, well, now you can, if you wanted to, go back and attach to that original sense of disappointment and go back into that emotion, because right now you don't have to care for, solve, fix, protect, and make sure everyone else is okay. Now this is just about Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I understood the second container, so I'll just tell you what I said, and then you tell me if I did it right. I put down failure, inadequacy, separation, like shame or separation, and then that is it's identifying with feeling what Mike was feeling when he was sharing with us, and feeling those things in myself. So maybe this was me circling back to disappointment, but the disappointment turned directly into myself, and then feeling like I deserve that. I deserve the shame. I deserve the separation. I deserve to be the leper that's put outside of the community, like kind of feeling the filth and the heaviness of my own sins that I struggle with, and just kind of feeling that, kind of a heavy wet blanket, and being like, this is who I am. This is what I deserve. This is, and that I think that I deserve that. Like Mike and I would always go back and forth with having the conversation of being the biggest sinner in the room, and how annoying that is as a posture, because it's kind of just like a rhetorical thing that we kind of say, but that Mike and I would always go back and forth like, no, I actually think that I am. Like I walk into the room and I'm like, you guys have no idea how terrible of a person that I am, and the guilt and shame that I carry for a lifetime of being the worst sinner in the room. So I think that part of that for me is coming back to that and being like, if there is shame, if there is separation or inadequacy or that kind of stuff, I deserve that. Those are the byproducts of the things that I've done or thought or said.
Right. Let's hold for a second, Tim. I think that's, you can see almost why, if you felt disappointment and this is what was underneath it, because I think you're right. Like, what does Mike's story have to do with me? And then boom, big, heavy feelings and shame are here, that you could see why you would want to go so quick into solution, right? Where it's like, well, I'm for sure not going to sit with that. Therefore, how's everyone else doing? Yeah. Okay. Beautiful, by the way. Beautiful.
And I think my third one, and we talked about this a little bit when we spoke before, but my track history with the church has been almost every church I've been a part of, the man has had to step down, the head pastor has had to step down for infidelity. And I'm not saying that this is the case with Mike, but that has been my case with the churches all growing up all the way through my adult life. And so the church is just, I have such a love-hate relationship. I see the initial push, in Acts and in the way that Jesus kind of pulled people together, and I see the initiative and what it was meant to be, and then why we're being so intentional with what we're doing here, and then just not seeing that in the church and being so frustrated and feeling like the church has been so off track, or I am. But there's something in conflict there. I don't feel like we're playing the same game anymore. Like we might be in, or at least in different leagues, but So that's been very frustrating. And I think that, and then that kind of links back to the last Tupperware container of like feeling like I deserve to be on the outside or deserve to be separated is maybe because I don't see a seat in there anymore, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. And you can see what what shame says is you deserve this. You should be alone. Shame is so isolating. It's one of the easiest ways for us to identify is this shame versus conviction, right? Is I'm bad, I deserve this, and I should be alone.
Yep.
Versus I need to tell somebody, I need people to come around me. I need Jesus in this pit. Come back to the front, acknowledge what's going on, and get that community. There's a difference between shame and conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it so interesting, Tim and Elise, what does this mean? That's going to be my question from now on.
Excellent.
Is that especially in that last container, right? Like Tim and I are both saying this broken system, whatever. And where Tim's going is I deserve to be on the outside of it. There's not a seat for me there. I deserve isolation. Whereas my bent would be there's not a seat for me here. And he said, maybe it's me. Does that make sense? Maybe there's something I'm doing. Or I say there's not a seat here. So I'm just going to go build my own table. So how does that happen? We've had similar experiences and one person feels shame and then one person feels like me being angry enough then I'm just going to go start does that make sense? I'm wondering because there's got to be, I know there's people listening that have that same experience, not only with the church but just in general of when something happens like this and also in a track record sense, again, the 12th time I finally did something. What happens that some people want, and this because I think it would touch on Mike too, want to isolate versus come out of hiding. How does that shift take place?
To me it's the divergence that happens in the second container, which is what does this story say about me? Okay. So for Bonnie, for your containers, what does Mike's story say about you? Is there's not a link to I similarly understand that struggle, where Tim and Mike are almost arm wrestling, for the biggest sinner in the room, that.
They also have an empathy connection there.
Yes,
got it.
Yes, so that's risky and vulnerable to think so there's a breath hold, almost oh God, what does this say about me, and what does this mean for me? The third, what does this mean for me in the context of the church? So the divergence might be if Mike's story is also about me or my own shortcomings line up, now I'm almost afraid of the outcome and what does this mean for me in the greater context of the church. So if you've ever felt like you've sat in that seat, I think there's a greater weightiness, and instead of finding out, I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah.
I don't need you to reject me since I already sit in such a seat of rejection, since I already sit in an internal sense of I'm bad. I totally don't need you to confirm that for me by telling me how bad this is or how bad Mike is or how bad sin is, because I know. Which is why I respect Vox community so much, because this is a community that is trying to lean back in, and we need that desperately as human beings. We need it desperately, every single one of us, regardless of the chairs that we have sat in, whether we have been in a seat like Mike. We need desperately for people to lean in.
It's tough to. It's a little easier to lean into my pain, for me when it is me. But when you're connected with somebody, that feels hard to lean in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was a question actually that came up right this week. Was what? If you're the person who is in need of someone to lean in towards, I need someone to lean in towards me, or if you're the person who's trying to lean into somebody else, how do you do that, and how do you do that well? And right?
It's hard. Yeah. Well, and I think too, we live in a culture right now. I think especially in the church culture, but in general, like a culture where a lot of voices have been silenced.
Yes.
Over the past decades. So there's this big emergence. I'm just going to, it's nobody's fault, but I'm going to blame it on Brene Brown, who I love.
Scapegoat.
I love her. But she's empowered everybody to be vulnerable.
That's right.
And to own their story, which I think is really good. At the same time, I feel safe on this podcast. I feel safe with you three. I don't share the same things with everybody.
Sure.
Because it's not all safe. Or at least it doesn't feel safe. And so sometimes I think like in these moments, and even when we were talking about, okay, what are we going to share with Mike? We always went back and forth, because I think there's a fine line between vulnerability and then just kind of like jumping off the cliff of transparency.
Yes. Good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
look at me.
But one thing I think, and Tim, you can definitely back me up on this, but we had emails come in from a bunch of other pastors that were like, I could have said the exact same things you're saying. The difference is I'm still in hiding and I don't know what to do. And I think, looping back to like this transparency and the broken system and stuff, like we've built this system where pastors aren't allowed to struggle, to grieve. They don't have anybody, isolated, very much performance minded, because you got to pay the building and keep the numbers and pay your salaries and all of those things. But then on the flip side, like the desire would be like, I just want out. So I'm just going to like basically like be so transparent that like I'm just telling everybody everything. And I don't think that either of those things does anybody favors. Like I'm interested in this middle way where nobody has to hide, but they can be transparent in a safe place. And I think that at least within the church, that's a lost art.
Yes.
Because a lot of times the people that are there to support and protect the pastor also control whether he has a job.
True.
And
catch-22.
That's difficult. Yeah.
The stark difference that I noticed this week is, so before last week's episode, right? Maybe there's a marker in the sand here a little bit. Before last episode and then post last episode is before Mike was pastor, and there's this spiritual sense. We put pastors on this pedestal of spiritual guide and person who knows things and is more superior than I am and better and maybe more holy, maybe closer to God. There's a bunch of things that go along with that place. And then the response was what? You're human. You're so human. We're here to support you in your brokenness, blah, 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 right? I'm like, So where was that before? Are pastors not allowed to be human? Why are we responding now to the human?
Right.
I take issue with, now that you have, in air quotes, now we can acknowledge you're human.
Right. And if maybe we could do it before, it wouldn't cause such pain and isolation.
I do think that this is the third container issue. The church needs to create safe places of dialogue where these are already on the table, because, listen, the people are already experiencing the pain and all the humanness. We live in humanness, right? If we could have the conversations before the humanness becomes more broken behavior, then we're participating at least with both the human and the spirit, rather than we only come in after the fact and help the person after this has all taken place.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And it's so crazy, because if we are people that we put heavy, if not all stock on the incarnation, it's insane that we do not live it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I was talking to my wife about this, not this, but a different topic that seems to relate to this a little bit, about people's parenting styles where everything is out of sight, out of mind. So it's like your child is not, is not developing a drug habit until they're like foaming at the mouth on the floor in front of you.
Right.
But they'll kind of move forward
right.
as if the
Fine.
boat is just cruising really nice until everything falls apart. And then they just lose their minds. But as soon as it gets cleaned up, they kind of try to lock back into that like
Homeostasis.
the steady boat again. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I see that in the church too, where it's
Yes.
like, I think we talked about like that we really wanted to say because we did get those emails that were like, this is me. This could have been me word for word. I don't know how to struggle openly in this position and stuff. And we wanted to tell pastors like, you have the permission to do that, and you need to take that permission and feel okay and feel safe to be human. Like, what a ridiculous thing to not be able to feel like you can be a human being. But also, the congregation needs to kind of demand that or want that and be and create that safe place for the pastor to do that. Like, I know a lot of people that don't want to hear, and I've seen these responses too, where it's like, they don't want to hear or see the struggles. They don't want to hear or see the pain. They need that hero that comes in and, from the mountaintop and kind of gives this thing on Sunday morning that they all go like, yes, like we're all good to go. And so like this conversation is such a large organic amoeba of like all these moving parts that need to kind of all push forward and to try to build this safe environment together, this mess of humanity together that's pushing forward.
Yes. There so many things jumped out when you were talking, Tim. I love hearing the parallel to parenting, the church, the story we tell ourselves about pastors and then Jesus. Like it's such a parallel to the Gospels, and people are like, hero, now this, and we haven't stopped that chanting of what we're expecting from the role of pastor. And it's like, I almost feel like it would be like, yeah, same, but different. So our heart desires a hero. May that point us towards Jesus rather than towards that impossible mantle to sit on a pastor. Like we keep applying that to the wrong person. The pastor is not God. The pastor is not Jesus. That's not the point. We're missing it still.
Yeah, we're missing it. And I would also say, like, he's not even closer to God or Jesus than anybody. I mean, that's made up.
Yeah, right?
It's just made up.
There's no measurement. This is my other favorite. This is one of my other favorite things. I'm like, it's not even like there's some form of way to actually measure closest. Like there isn't like proximity. It's not real.
That's not a thing. Right.
not a thing.
Right. We've made that up. Yeah, I know. And I think you're right. I think we need to set each other free. Like we need to set the pastors free from feeling like we think this about them.
That sounds like a hashtag. Just
Yeah,
waiting
it
to
does.
happen.
Set the pastors free.
Set the pastors
I hear Bernie
pastors
Sanders'
now.
voice for some reason.
Totally.
Set the
But
pastors
also,
free.
but also set ourselves free from trying to figure out, because at some level it's easier to feel closer to God if you have like this tangible
Sure.
person
Yes, hence
who's
Jesus.
telling you what to do. Yeah, exactly. And so set ourselves free from needing that almost.
Yep.
Does that,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. I also heard like the hot potato thing come up again as well when you're talking about families, where it's like everything's fine until it's not. And if we could acknowledge that it's not and hold that rather than being like, I don't know how to deal with this, so I just won't. And instead of saying, okay, so if I don't, then who does? And could we reach out to them? And so our kids aren't foaming at the mouth, and so that our pastors aren't like killing themselves or, ruining their families' lives. There's been an epidemic of pastoral suicide in this last year.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is the question that I have almost to the church, to this third container is, or to pastors directly, what is it costing you? What does it cost you to be a pastor? What is it? Is it costing you your family? Is it costing you your mental health? What is it costing you? And is it worth it then?
Yeah.
And what do you need so we can help balance that? Because it's so out of whack. We can't.
out of whack,
We don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even in that, it's like to say that we don't need a martyr Like, don't.
Ooh.
I do see that there's something in there where it's like that suffering feels like it is part of the job title or something, and so it's like, no, this is the burden, this is the yoke that I carry.
So
it's
real.
like, no, man, like
no,
don't be the martyr.
No, yeah. Martyr points, suffering points. Yeah, I got extra
Those are
credit.
popular.
For this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with that too, it's like when we're in a situation we don't know that we know isn't right, so then we just build other constructs around it to make it more right? And we use scripture to on top of it. We're abusing and contorting what scripture says to support the fact that pastors fill in the blank in order to support the narrative that I have to be here and suffer.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and if you can convince yourself that you're doing anything like for God or the church, you can pretty much go for a while on that, even if it's wrong.
Especially when it's wrong, or we wouldn't need to create a story around it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? We're not creating stories around the things that we know are good, right, or otherwise. It's just around the things. Why do we need to defend, protect, explain?
Okay, I'm going to go with that for a second, back into my second container, because that just jogged my memory of something else that the three of us talked about. Around the story that we've created as a evangelical church, that women are seductresses, and they can't be trusted in a room with a man. And even though like it takes two to tango, it's the woman's fault. I mean, I have heard my whole life, like, you have to be pretty, but you can't be too pretty. You have to be smart, but you can't be too smart. Make sure your dress is this long, but not too long. Make sure your shirt is up to here. I mean, it's like, you can't even like just put on your clothes and walk out the door. I mean, it's like all these thoughts in your head just to walk into church. And so what's interesting about that is we're talking about stories that are created. Tim, you brought up the rule that is always there.
Billy Graham rule.
The Billy Graham rule. And I just want to hear, like, even just from a male standpoint, like your thoughts on that, though, because it feels like that we've made that rule and we've created a story, like you're just saying, and then we set up a construct to validate that story. But it doesn't seem to be working, that story or the rule. And so I don't know. I think we need to address that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very frustrating, and my wife has helped me see the errors in what that rule suggests, and because we were talking about it in regards to Mike Pence, our wonderful vice president, who has adapted the Billy Graham rule and won't meet with like any females one-on-one, and how many things that denies to a lot of women, opportunities that denies just because he's like, I can't, because what if this happens, blah blah blah. And to me, it just feels like such, like that when we were talking about sin management, right, and not dealing with, so instead, and this is even more so on that scale, because it's like, not only are you just trying to deal with something that you think you might struggle with, you're like not even doing that, you're putting it on somebody else. So it's like, it's almost like the ultimate version of sin management, rather than dealing, like if you have a problem where you think that you are gonna like have an affair if you're near a woman, well, that sounds like you need to, like, that might be something that you need to work on.
It's not the woman's fault.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like not her fault.
The definition of projection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, but instead of managing, or instead of just like trying to pretend like you're managing your sin, you're even doing one step further, where you're asking someone else to manage your sin. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like 3 times removed.
Right.
Yeah.
And it puts women in a terrible, I mean, that's my opinion. That's my male perspective.
It's a unique male perspective.
Yeah, it is. And I'm really grateful for your voice there, because I think sometimes it can be seen like, well, and we heard that in the, the guy that said that thing about Beth Moore. We did an episode on it.
John MacArthur.
Yeah. Yes. And he said like, women just want power. Like you don't see women that want to be, and he said like mechanics and like all this stuff. Like they just want power. And which was so funny because we actually have a woman mechanic. So I'm like, I don't.
And I'd love to know what his he must have had some little direct reference in his brain too.
Totally. Right.
Yeah, mechanics.
He brought his car in it. Yeah, something happened specific where he's like, oh my God, the women are trying to take over the car shop.
But anyways, and so, oh shoot, now I forgot where we were going.
Sorry.
I know, you're good. But this idea of that, like, it denies women opportunity, first of all, like you said, but I'm so grateful for you to acknowledge that, because sometimes it can, people that don't share maybe my perspective or our perspective might say like, oh, that person just wants power or whatever it is. Not that that's been said to me. But this other idea of not only that about opportunity, the message that it sends, like as a woman, the message that I received my whole life is that like I should be sorry for being a woman, and I should apologize for the way I look, or if I'm smart, or any of those categories that I like out of the gate have to come into a room and apologize for my existence.
I just feel like an overt and an overly sexualized way that we script females. So if my only danger to this conversation is the fact that I'm female, and that danger is specifically connected to sexual sin, then the only time that we will be alone is for sexual reasons. It's like everything
that's
is
the only dynamic we can have
ever. It's just everything is sex. It's just sex. It's just sex. It's just sex. And it's like, what? What? Yeah. So if you're on the receiving end of that message as a woman, then you hear that, again, my power is actually in my sexuality, in being sexual. So it's a bizarre feedback loop, that what is put on the female is that they are sexually charged and have the sexual power, and that it is actually bad. And that they need to be very careful how they're yielding that. And so if that's what you hear all the time, then it's like, okay, I'm only a sexual being rather than a sentient being or an intellectual being or a creative being or whatever. Just a person here who wants to move chairs around. And I just had a question about where the chairs go in the room. Didn't need you to put that on me, but thanks.
Yeah. I just I want to just change the narrative. You know, and it's something as small as, instead of saying, you can't be in the room alone with him because you might tempt him. Well, one, I want us to be adults. I want us to be able to just be humans together that have, but I understand sometimes the idea and the need for being like, hey, I have to safeguard that. But if somebody feels the need to do that, then to Tim's point, I want us to create an environment where we feel safe enough as human beings to say, I can't do this because I struggle with this. That's not on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom. Yeah. Yep. Clarity, responsibility, where it should be ownership, and then it's objective. Also, it's not personal. It's not personal. This is my thing. It's not your thing. You don't have to carry that for me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it loops us back around to this environment, though, that we've created, that no one's human.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also, as we talked about during the Josh Harris stuff, the purity culture.
The purity culture.
Just the shame culture in general that we have developed over the last however many hundreds of years, but especially in the last 20 or so, where it's like, yeah, it's easier as a man in a position of power to say, oh no, I'm safeguarding my marriage. I'm safeguarding my purity by denying you access to this space, rather than dealing with just how we just don't know how to talk about sex, and we don't know how to talk about intimacy, and we don't know how to talk about struggles, and how that has affected men and women in different ways, and then in collective ways, and how much it's isolated us within something very powerful that we don't feel like we can talk about. And I think it was Gombas who was on here and just said, like, America has such a unhealthy infatuation with sex.
They're obsessed.
Yeah.
We just don't, we're obsessed with it, and we don't know how to talk about it or deal with it. And the church is like that's the one, I mean, it's almost the worst spot for it.
It is because we add on spiritual failure, right?
Yeah.
So like,
right?
Like outside,
it becomes existential.
and possibly eternal. Do you know, right?
Yep.
And like the gravitas nature of what we're condemning Christians to.
So heavy.
Yeah, it's so heavy. Yes. Oh, you know, so we're products of purity culture, my husband and I. And
how'd that go for you?
I think, and so there's been a lot of undoing of thought of things. But early on in our marriage, finally, I just said to him, I just said, listen, like, because I think we do a poor job of also like the difference between like sex and then like sex and when you love someone, like that. Like, I don't know. There's like a weird thing there that people aren't tying those together all the time in the church. They just talk about just sex and then like, or love, and that I don't know, like nobody told me for a long time that like, that, you know, when you love each other, an expression of that is sex. Like it was so separated for me.
Yeah.
And so finally one day in our marriage, I just said, like at the beginning of our marriage, I said to Sai, I was like, listen, like I find it weird that you never tell me when you like see somebody who's pretty. And he was like, well, why would I do that? And I was like, well, why wouldn't you? I was like, I think that you're a person that celebrates beauty in life. And like, if you only thought that I was pretty, I would think there'd be something wrong because you're like a human that's walking around on the earth that sees beautiful things. And I'm like, and frankly, when you tell me like, oh, so-and-so is pretty, then I'm confirmed that you think I'm pretty and that you have good taste in me. Like it like actually helps my thinking. And so at the very beginning of our marriage, we had this conversation of like, hey, let's be people that we're allowed to say, gosh, that was a beautiful person. Or did you see that person looks nice or whatever it was, and be able to say that to each other, because then it never comes taboo. And also we're acknowledging that something's aesthetically beautiful, but that doesn't take the place of me loving you like in this very intimate way. And I remember telling friends that, and they were so weirded out by it. But I think that it has actually helped us in so many ways to be free to express and never to feel shame just because you see something that you appreciate, like God's beauty in someone or something else.
Yep.
But be able to like, and in some way then always like turn it back. It makes the love connection, I guess, even more so, if that makes sense, because you're able to identify the difference. So I don't know. It was just like just jogged my memory of something that we had to do to like get out of purity culture safely. Even
to a minute degree, right? Where it's like, we're just trying to be free. Like we just want to be in freedom. Yep. Okay. We're in a whole other world than where we were starting. So do we want to pick up on triggers, responses, ways forward? Like what are other necessary pieces of this conversation? Because clearly I'm like, we could just sit here for the rest of the day and talk everything through.
Okay. I do want to hit one trigger because I think it's super important. When you said for people who have, we talked about someone who like sees Mike's story. But what if you're on the receiving end? What if you're somebody that's been hurt by, like, so whoever Mike has hurt, what comes up for you in your second container is that those same things have hurt you. So like something might be a trigger in that sense.
Yes.
What happens then? What would you suggest for a way forward? Because if it produces anxiety, what to do with that? I don't have any good advice for people. That's why I go to therapy, is for anxiety. So you're again, Elise, fix it.
Are you saying that there's for the person who has been on, their partner has whatever,
maybe had an emotional connection with somebody as well.
Okay.
I did get a few emails saying that, like, this has happened to me, and I'm hearing this made me feel like it might happen again. I got a handful of those, or emails saying, if this can happen to Mike, then for sure it's going to happen to my husband,
right?
Or whatever, like both of those.
This is like what's interesting though is I think the reframe on that is I would say yes. that is possible in your marriage, that is possible in my marriage, that is possible in marriage. That actually allows us to be human when we say, hey, that is possible that could happen again. To say that it's not is to be in illusion. To the way that love requires reality. The reality is we are capable and culpable. And if we are in blindness, if we are not looking at the reality for potential pain, potential abandonment, potential repetition of pattern, then we are not in real love. We are in a kind of a fear-based fusion delusion, if I'm being super straightforward, which is I will only hold my partner's potential for good rather than my partner's potential for both. So we're holding the capacity that my husband has the ability to both love me wildly into my true self and also injure me the most because he is the person who's most intimate and vulnerable with me. There's actually a greater expanse and awareness of my appreciation for the fragility of that relationship rather than it can only be good and only be in this one narrow tube or tunnel space. If that increases anxiety, then let's go with it. We don't deny it. Put it back on the table. What am I anxious? What am I actually anxious about? And again, what does this have to do with my husband? What does this have to do with what I believe about myself? And what does this have to do with the way society talks about men, women, and love and sex and beauty and all that jazz?
So the same container framework.
It is. It's the same construct because there's what has happened, what that's bringing up in me, and what that has to do with everything else in the bigger story we're all a part of. Okay? So for that woman, I'm afraid because it's happened, and what that brings up in my own story is desirability, is rejection, and that might, if I trace it back, goes even back to my childhood win, right? And then the bigger story of I'm afraid that I'm going to be the woman who's left and that my husband's going to go with a younger woman is what we see in society. And if I blend all those, it's so big and I'm so afraid, I'm now paralyzed, I'm stuck, right? And so I'm either going to go back into hiding because I say I can't hold it because it's too big. But if I separate those out, then I'm able to address each one in the more bite-sized, realistic chunks that I can actually deal with. Society has issues. I need to work on my own, how I and what I believe about myself as a woman, in my own beauty, in my own body, as it directly pertains to my husband. And you know what? My husband's story is not me. My husband's story is not a direct reflection of me. It's his stuff. Like Mike's is not about Justina.
Right.
Doesn't that feel so clear when you see it on someone else's story? Like, of course it's not about that.
Right.
But then all
when
this,
it's your own,
yes, we personalize the poop out of it. Just like, it's because this, it's because me, it's because that. It's like, all right, that's self-obsession.
Yeah.
And I wonder how everything you just said, if we took the husband and wife out and put the church congregant and the pastor
Yes.
into that same position, how much of that just is the exact same story.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's
Yeah.
not because of me. And ultimately what I believe, so as a therapist, I'm like, it's also not because of Mike. Like, this is, when I listen and when I hear what's happening, I hear a system of Mike's life where he was kind of like set in motion to turn in a specific way, like a top. You think about spinning a top and the way that that's spinning, and things just come into that orbit and continue to spin out. And this was set in motion so many years ago where I'm bad, something happens, I hide. Public loves me, therefore I want to continue to go where I feel that love. Privately, I feel that shame spin out, that shame spin out, that shame spin out. So therefore I have to keep them separate. And the more separate they are, the harder it is for me to know which one's real, what's real, who am I, right? God, and there's just this massive Chinese wall. And eventually it's like, at the beginning, it's so subtle and then it's so big. And that's why what we're watching right now is the crumble. It's just all coming down. And it's so damn painful because when you've been hiding for a long time, it hurts so much. This is the other thing I thought is like, I thought Mike in this brokenness is so free right now, the most free, because there's nothing left to hide.
Yeah.
Can he stay open and free?
Yeah.
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 Well, and can we, like when you said he's more free than any of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, because I'm holding on to things that have come up out of this.
This is it, Bonnie, right?
Yeah.
So then the invitation to you is what and to whom needs to be shared, and then why, like, right? We don't want to create a reverberation of let me tell you everything then, but what is this, right? Because there's the difference between just being reckless. Okay, we're not looking for reckless transparency that creates injury in community, but that I might say, when I think about Mike's clear, clean place of freedom, if I were to walk up and meet that clean, clear mirror, what would I need to move out of the way so that I could live and reflect back that same clarity? What am I holding? What do I need to share? What do I need to gain awareness of? What do I wanted to say?
Yeah. That's good. It's such a good takeaway. I think that's such a beautiful place to end because it causes so much reflection and question and brings us all in this together.
We are in this
right
together.
Instead of Mike being on this page out there, and we're here. We're
right.
Like we can start now changing that narrative of
Us.
we all hold responsibility. Us, we're all in this together. We are all human.
Yep.
And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing, and just to echo what we said earlier, to just invite this community to live in that openness and live in that kind of messiness and honesty and truth together. You know, that we want to grant that permission. I don't we're not under any delusions that, Bonnie and I are not under any delusions that we are that we understand all this and that we have all this together. So
right. That's actually why we booked Elise to be on the show.
So please know that we're not coming in here with a savior complex. We're mostly just coming in here with an open door, I guess, and just saying.
And it's important that this conversation, like the Russian dolls, this isn't a one-stop shop. It's not like, okay, let's just close that up, button it up, check that off. It's like, hey, this is an ongoing conversation. If we are going to be the church for each other forever, then this is an open table, and that's always on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the tools that I want to give to my kids to carry on to their kids. Like, this is kind of humanity as we bounce around. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Try to figure it all out.
Yeah. It's okay, and it's not bad. We can't keep polarizing people or behavior with judgment like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah. So healing for the Vox community and greater truth, greater awareness, and actually a greater intimacy that comes when we look at things with eyes that are wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you so much, Elise.
Yeah, thank you.
You are such a gift, and it's like it's been like I'm so grateful. Like Tim and I could just like sit and rant all day. For you to bring like clarity and resource and things to do, places to put these emotions and these thoughts to bring us back around. Like, gosh, what a gift.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, making that room to breathe and because you said the top thing with Mike, and I was like, well, that's how I feel too. Just kind of spinning until the motion stops and you just kind of fall over.
Right. Well, the truth is we are all spinning. Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
Well, yes, Elise, thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
And
I hope
Elise,
sorry.
I was just going to say, Elise, you can find her stuff. She has her own podcast, Trailer Cast, that she talks about a lot of these things and interviews people, and it's really, really good. EliseSnipes.com and radicalwellness.co. But I think also we're going to try to put together a list of maybe
resources.
Yeah,
resources for ongoing conversation around who needs support, around what specific issues, and therapists you can trust, and or spiritual directors. Not everything is for therapy. Some things truly are, like, let's take that to spiritual direction, and some things are for therapy, and we just want to make sure we know which goes in which room.
Yeah. Bonnie, thank you for remembering that. We really want to make a resource something that I don't know, it feels like we're kind of like isolated in this little like non-existent place that exists on the internet, even though we're all in different places right now. But that is the one weird thing about this community, is that we're not all sitting in the same little zip code. So we do want to create resources. That's a conversation we've had a few times. So if you are somebody with those resources in your area, and you have, or
you're a therapist yourself. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Reach out.
Reach out. You can email it hello@voxpodcast.com or tim@voxpodcast.com, and we'll try to get that stuff together. Everybody that emailed in from micro communities, I'm still working on that. So I just say thank you for your patience. And if is there anything else before we sign off?
Someone has to do the blessing, but I
got it
can't
right here.
Oh, you are the best.
Right
I can't remember it for the life of me.
The weird thing is like I just came from a church in Pasadena that we would, because I led worship there, so we would sing all these blessings.
Oh yes,
and so
Tim,
it's really,
serenade us.
Tim, do it,
because I have the words here. I was like, every time that Mike was doing it, he'd ask one of us to do it. I was like, I can only remember it if I'm thinking of it in melody. Yeah. And so, but now I looked it up so that I can have just the words to say. Awesome. So I think one of the cool things too in that church, and it was a little Presbyterian church, but often when we would offer a blessing, we would try to say like, let's open up your hands, close your eyes, and kind of accept that blessing. So unless you're driving your car right now, which I know is where a lot of you listen to this, so don't close your eyes and take your hands off the wheel. When we say Jesus take the wheel, that's not it's not literal, so please don't do that. But if you are in a place to kind of just sit and hear and listen and let these words kind of just fall over you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, and in these days may he give you peace. Amen. Thank you, Vox. We love you guys.
See you next week.